Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point. And there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
Now, you're welcome. Round 4 of the Allianz Leagues this weekend. Hurling and football to look forward to. And on the podcast today, we'll chat hurling with Liam Sheedy and Rory in a little bit. But first up, it's football. And we've got Dessie Dolan on the line. Dessie, how are things?
Great.
Good to have you back,
Looking forward to the matches are heating up nicely.
Yeah, it's a busy time
You
of
know
year.
that everyone says the league doesn't count for much.
Yeah, it feels like it counts for a lot right now. And Damian Lawlor with us for the first time this season is judo. Damian, how are you, Cathal? Good to see you. We've seen you shielded under umbrellas a lot the last few weeks on sidelines around the country.
Yeah, so I live these days with sinusitis, tonsillitis, bronchitis, everything you get from being on the sides of pitches. But it's absolutely grim out there. It's great to be at games though, and you know, at least you're watching decent football as well. That has to be said. And with the hurling, in fairness to the lads, you know, they are able to keep possession with the tricky conditions, and you've seen some good games as well. But I have to say, it's a pleasure the last 12, 13, 14 months just with the football call. It's before you'd actually dread going to some games because you knew what was going to happen, but it's complete chaos now, and I love every second of it. Yeah,
chaos is the buzzword, isn't it, Dessie?
Yeah, well, attack is the best form of defence. Like, teams can't hold on to leads. Like, if you have a lead and you stop scoring, there's a good chance you're going to get reeled in. And what we're seeing is the 12-point, like the Galway Kerry game was the example of that at the weekend, where if you stop the scoring threat or stop the kind of flow of scores coming, well, very quickly teams can reel you in, and especially with the wind this time of the year, with the wind and the 2-pointers, it's a massive factor in games. And the reality is players are starting to kind of go for the 2-pointers now because they realise the value in them, and then they're very careful with the free kicks. Like, I was at the Armagh Roscommon game, and it kind of boiled down to the 2-pointers. I think Oisin O'Neill missed 2 opportunities for 2-pointers when they were coming hard at Roscommon. And obviously there was the goal, the Ross McQuillan missed, or sorry, the breach and the missed goal for Armagh. But at the same time, Armagh were coming at Roscommon very heavy with the wind at their back, trying to get the 2-pointers. So you're just not safe. You have to keep the scoreboard ticking over. And that was the only thing I mentioned. Roscommon only got 1-4, I think, in the second half, which they did enough to get the win, which was massive. But at the same time, it's just that you got to keep the scoreboard ticking over.
Yeah, that was a great game actually last weekend between Armagh and Roscommon.
Yeah, like going on what Dessie says as well, like, and from a coaching point of view, Dessie will know this as well. Just the role of the floater, Dessie, under the kick out. And I'm wondering, you know, the way you tried in training in training drills and training matches and stuff like that, getting in for that breaking ball, and you know yourself, Cathal, being a footballer, like, you can't guarantee a kick out anymore. If you go short, the likes of Mayo are going to turn you over with a high press. If you go long, then I always feel in the current conditions, the long kickouts are favouring the opposing midfielder who just come and punch it down,
smash, yeah.
And then your defence is on the you know, defensive straight away. That's why a player in my mind like Paul Galvin, who got in the dirty ball and set up a counter attack straight away. They're crucially important for me in the modern game. And I wonder, that idea of a floater, somebody who just hangs around for that secondary breaking ball, is so important going forward in the game of Gaelic football. If you go back to last year's All-Ireland hurling final, John McGrath, Ronan Maher, people like that were spoken about player of the match. But for me, it was Willie Connors, who played that running midfield role, got into every ruck for a breaking primary ball, and got it on a counter-attack straight away. And I think a player like that is going to be absolutely crucial. Somebody who puts their body on the line, unbelievable bravery, but then has the skill and class to turn it around into a swift counter-attack.
Yeah, is it just a case of getting bodies in around
Damian,
the ball?
Paul Galvin now will be worth about €100 million.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. Because he had everything in terms of bravery, conditioning to get back, but the football ability then to score with either foot or set up a counter-attack as well.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose the 2 main areas of the modern game is the scoring. The 2-pointers, obviously off the chart. You have to have an ability to do that. But the big thing is the kickouts. It's evolved totally. Like, when I was in charge of Westmeath, like, it could be 70-80% short to mid kickouts, very few long kickouts unless it was a high press by a team. Whereas now, like, teams are going zonal. So I suppose what they're doing is 4 in the full forward line, 4 in the half forward line, and then battleground out of midfield because they're overloaded. So they want the contests all of the time, and that contest is providing great entertainment. But It's like everything. I think teams will adapt, and I think we're going to see more man v man markers coming into the game again. But we're also going to see the likes of a Paul Galvin type figure being central to the ground battle, because the ground battle is now where it's at. If you can get hold of the momentum of the match around the middle, it's massive in the games.
And just even one quick point before we move on, Carl. Even in underage coaching, you know, if you're under pressure in the game, you try and get everybody into the central spine, get the kick out into the wing and get a non-running wing forward to pick up a handy ball. You can't do that anymore. You're being turned over even at underage. They're right up in your faces. So, as Dessie said, it's going to take coaches a little while to figure this out. But for now, even in Tralee last week, as saturated as I was sitting back with 11 points between the teams, Galway, Shane McGrath in particular, you knew what was coming once they got a bit of momentum. You can't stop momentum these days. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's that's absolutely right. And if we just look at the fixtures in Division 1 this weekend, Dublin Kerry, Galway Roscommon, Monaghan Mayo and Armagh Donegal, 4 games that there's a lot riding on. But I think the biggest game of the weekend probably is a Porky Rin on Sunday in Division 2, Cork against Meath. Looks like, lads, this is probably a promotion shootout. The winner here will be in a very, very good position.
Well, it's great. It's kind of a throwback to when I was a child watching Cork and Meath. It does appear as if Meath, it's not a flash in the pan. Robbie Brennan is doing a great job, but he's doing it with a bit of substance, a bit of flair. They're playing really confident football. Their likes of your Kinselas and your Jordan Morris and Flynn, all of these lads have really stepped it up and are playing with great confidence and great swagger. And the thing I like about Meath is at the minute is that they seem to be a very good collective. There seems to be a very good spirit in the group. But equally, Cork, it's a game. It's in Porky Cueve. So is it Porky Cueve?
Porky Rin.
Porky Rin. Yeah.
So I suppose that's the thing about it is it's a home game for Cork in a pitch that they'll do the home game is a massive factor in this, because I just think that the opportunity to get the win, to get promotion, to get the head-to-head on the opposition, it kind of sets you up for promotion up to Division 1. And I think both Cork and Meath, I think that's where they see their place. And Cork have been struggling in Division 2 and Division 3 for so long. It'd be a massive card for them to get the win. But equally, Meath are stubborn as anything, and they're getting their 2-pointers near the end and they're getting the wins. And that's a trait of Meath football that it's great to see back.
So Porky Rin, like you're looking down the line maybe to be concerts and Porky Cueve at a crucial juncture during the championship. And I think John Cleary wants his side maybe, well, not that they're not used to Porky Rin anyway, to train there quite often, both sides, but that pitch will be crucial. Hurlers won't be playing on the day as well. So you'd imagine the Cork public will go and support this team, like Meath, unbeaten so far this year. I was asked last October, November, maybe just to name a player I thought might go well and a team I thought might go well. Tomas Kennedy would have been my player from a long way out. Haven't seen him at underage. He made the 26 for Kerry last year in the All-Ireland final, and he's not even that long out of schools action. Then Cork would have been my tip then for a team. Just, I'm not sure what I expect of them, but I would expect them to be in competition at the All-Ireland business end of the year. I really would.
Right.
Why do I say that? In fairness, John Cleary's he's stuck at it. He's got a really good squad back together. You've got the likes of Cronin, people like that have experience, but they've got pace up front and they're dangerous on the attack. And even last year, you couldn't rule them out, Carl, of winning games that they weren't expected to win. And as what Dessie was saying with Meath, well, if you talk to any of the Meath players, there's one word that they say about Robbie Brennan, and he's given them belief. And I saw them in the Tailteann Cup, and around the middle third, they were putting over booming points even back then in the final. And they always had that in their locker. But are they the best team in Ireland at the moment of kicking 2-pointers? I think they certainly are on their day. And they travel down Leeside now against the team. As Dessie said, it's a throwback to the old era, whereby I'd say they're going to absolutely leather into each other, and it'll be a shootout. You know?
It will. Just from a Meath point of view, lads, I suppose they are going well. They've kicked some late scores. Is that a positive or a negative? Because you could probably look at it in both ways. One, they're showing the belief to get over the line, but also they need the late scores to get over the line. What do you think?
Well, to be fair, it just shows you how competitive these divisions are. This is the worst thing about the league. You're playing close matches all the time because that's your level. Like, all the teams that you're playing are your level. Like, the league is an incredibly even competition. So you win one weekend, you said, who have we got next weekend? And you're going, oh Jesus, we've Cork or we've Meath. There's no easy game for any team. Like, Cavan really put it up to Meath, and we're probably very, very fortunate Meath to get out of that. with the win. And like, even if Cavan as well against Cork, Stephen Sherlock came like very, very late free to win that for Cork as well. The piece that Cork need to get in all of this for John Cleary, and he knows it himself, I've listened to his interviews, is the 70-minute performance. Like, Cork, when they're hot, they're extremely hot. They've got great forwards, great pace, great ability, great physicality. But when there's just days when someone switches the off button, and if you were a messiah on the sideline, you wouldn't change them. And that's the problem with Cork. If they can get them 70-minute performances, I think they're good enough to win this game at the weekend and get promotion.
Well, to me, Division 2 is where it's all at, if I'm being honest about it. I look at the teams there and the level of contest, as Dessie was saying, like, there's hardly a few points between each other. But if you look at maybe Meath's ability to come back and rally late on, even with Jack himself scoring points, that's a huge card for them. Again, with Robbie Brennan teams, he gives them a license to absolutely get off the leash and go for it. He's done it at club level as well. It's a really good fit, isn't it, Dessie, Robbie Brennan and Meath? But equally, John Cleary's resilience to stick with Cork and rebuild on the hoof there as well. They've lost quite a few players over the years, but I really admire both managers here, you know.
Yeah, no, in fairness to John, he's been resilient and he's taken a bit of stick, and like, they're in a prime position at the minute. At home against Meath is a great opportunity. But yes, there's something about Robbie Brennan. There's something about the way they're celebrating their wins after, the whole management team, the players collectively. There's a great unity of purpose, but then they're playing with great flair, great style, and then, like, there's nothing better, Carl, that when you are coming back from like a couple of points down and you get a win late on with a 2-pointer, like the buzz of excitement when they're on the pitch for that 30 or 40 seconds after, like, that's going to just give them lads more and more confidence, because they're getting a taste of success. They're winning matches in Croke Park. They want to get up to Division 1 as well and just experience that. Like, Division 1 is really the place for the top teams.
Yeah, and it's hard to believe, lads, Cork last in Division 1 back in 2016.
Yeah,
they've gone down to Division 3, as you mentioned, Dessie, in that time since they've been there too.
They've had, they've had their struggles over the years, but like, in pockets of Cork, the quality football is absolutely incredible, and it's getting the buy-in from the whole county, really. But on any given day, Carl, when they go out to play, like, again, I referenced the championship last year, they were capable of really hitting strong heights. They had powerful runners, the likes of Rory Dean. They had great scorers. You had your Sherlocks and your Cronins, and fairly well set up at the back. But their conditioning is really impressive to me, and that gives them a chance of boxing a level above. And I do believe they're a Division 1 team, and I do believe Meath are as well. So this is where the second tier is going to be so important. And I mean, another win or two here, lads, and you're in Division 1 nearly, and you're guaranteed your place then for championship.
Yeah, they usually say around 10 points is kind of the marker that you want to try and get to, isn't it? So they're both 3 from 3. The other games in Division 2, Derry, Offaly, Mickey Hart going up against Derry again, Loud Tyrone this weekend, in Cavan, Kildare as well. What's standing out to you there, Damian?
Yeah, I see something in Derry again, Carl. I think with Kieran Mina, and Dessie will know this too, like, he's been part of a lot of high profile tickets over the last few years, and he's you know, even at club level, he's seen all the new rules played out. But to me, he's got a bit of spirit going again. There's, you know, they were maybe unlucky in 1 or 2 games this year, but I think last weekend they were down three lads at one stage against Kildare away from home. That felt
like a bit of a turning point last weekend, just the manner of that win against Kildare.
I think it has to be, because they went through a situation there, and Des, you'll recall this, I think they lost about 8 games on the trot. But a lot of those were by a single score. Yeah, a lot of those were by a single score, though. You know, so they were never too far off it. I think Mina has done a good job. I think he's exactly what they want, and I expect to see them come good now and make a till for Ulster as well. Actually, they are maybe in 3rd or 4th spot there, but who knows what they could achieve.
Well, like, the quality is there, Damien. It's just a matter of, like, it was a little bit like they had switched off with the whole Rory Gallagher thing, that there was just this bit of a stalemate, bit of a divide, but like, it was hard to get them unified, back collective. The performances just lacked spirit, lacked energy, and you're looking at the players that were winning Division 1s and dominating the teams throughout the country, really, really struggling for form. And it just shows you that confidence is a massive thing. And the group, if you can keep the group positive, keep the energy high. And I see that there is steps that Derry are coming back with that bit of energy, bit of quality play. The players are there. But like, that's what we're saying. We're talking Cork and Meath up. Derry will have a big part to say in Division 2. And Tyrone, the loss of Darragh Canavan cannot be understated because of obviously his quality, his control. He's the one player in the Tyrone team that you kind of go, he's going to deliver every single day. And that's what Malachy O'Rourke will be very, very concerned about. His loss will impact the team. And then Louth will certainly be looking for a win. They really need to get a win on the board because if you're getting dragged down into that Division 2 relegation battle, that is not a nice place to be. It does appear as if it's just too much for Offaly. I think just looking at the injuries that they have, looking at the personnel available to them, they just don't have enough quality for Division 2. So that's one team I think will be going down. But who's going to join them is a massive thing in that division.
Going on to the Darragh Canavan thing, obviously not every manager would be delighted with it and not every player will be allowed to take a bit of time away. But I think it's fantastic. I think it's great that in a condensed season like we have, you have a bit of room. He's not too many months after surgery either, by the way, lads. And looking out at the window here, I don't blame him for going for Australia or Turkey, as his father says. But I feel that, watching him play at the moment, he's like a conductor of an orchestra. Everything nearly goes through him, Dessie, doesn't it? And even at club level, I've seen him play whereby he's been double marked. What he do is himself and Rory will pull out to the sideline. They'll leave an ocean of space. Ergel will build up from the back. Everybody knows what's happening. There's going to be a switch and a cross-channel run, but nobody can catch them.
You still can't stop it, even though that's a sign of a good player.
Yeah, and I've been watching, going up to the Ulster Championship games, there's been a couple of minor games on for years with Tyrone, and you knew this everybody was talking about Darragh Canavan, and I suppose the fact that his dad then, Peter, was such a quality player, but like there's so much of what you see in Peter that you see in Darragh. He's so clever, so shrewd. He's got the both feet. He's a brilliant finisher.
Hands. Yeah.
Both hands. He's got great balance. Like, he is really a complete player. And to be fair, he's going to be a massive loss. You cannot, he really is going to impact their performance level because they've been a little bit inconsistent. And I'm sure Malachy O'Rourke will be a little bit concerned that his impact will be when he's gone.
They do have players to bring in, though. And I do believe he'll come back match fit, especially with the family that he comes from. Again, I've brought my young lad to watch their games, and he's brought a few friends, and without saying a word, at half time they'll leave you and they'll go back to the goals that Darragh and Rory are shooting into. just to watch them without anybody saying a word to them. So that's the pull that they have. But I think he'll go off, he'll get a bit of sunshine, maybe a bit of time in the sea, and he'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Yeah, it just gives you an indication, Damian. Like, it's probably seven matches in 8 weeks, roughly, for the intercounty players in terrible conditions. Like, the league is with massive pressure on it. Like, if you think of the teams that won, let's say any of the teams at the weekend that played, so they're going training Tuesday night, possibly Thursday night. So they're reviewing the game that they just had, and they're previewing the game then that they're going to play at the weekend in terms of preparing. So you're trying to box off one game, then look towards the weekend and see what you have. And then as well as that, the lads are all trying to recover from injuries and they're trying to get back up to speed for the weekend to make themselves available to play. Logistically, then organising everything that needs to be organised with the backroom teams, and then picking your panels and seeing who's available, who's not available, and that's going on 7 out of 8 weekends. It's incredible. It's incredibly demanding for teams, and that's why you need your squads.
You're right, and they have a squad, in fairness, and it's going to take a few years for all those under 20 and underage players to come through and get up to the S&C levels, but they have all that. But Dessie's right, like, to be a county chairperson these days, you literally, it's like being CEO of a business, and to be head coach or manager of an inter-county team, well, you're devoting 50, 60 hours a week to it. It's in every thought process. You're looking, if there's a red card, you're looking to get a video footage. You must book hotels months in advance. You're trying to get the nutrition, the timing of it right. It's incredibly difficult. And I just feel that I suppose the weekend after next call, we have the vote of Congress maybe to push back the season by 2 weeks, and that's a GAA motion formed by a subcommittee headed by Pádraig Duffy. It's got the backing of top brass in GAA, but interestingly, Cork are going to vote against it, and it will find a bit of opposition around the country, especially from dual counties who feel that they need at least 14 to 16 weeks to run off their domestic championships after the All-Ireland. So that's another big question coming down the tracks.
Well, the calendar's been such a big talking point, hasn't it? Let's go to Division 1, lads. As I mentioned at the outset, some great fixtures to look forward to this weekend and a lot riding on the ball. Why don't we start, Dessie, with Armagh Donegal on Sunday afternoon? Armagh heading into that, when we mentioned the Roscommon match already, you got a good look at them last weekend. Then they've lost the last
they're a
two
powerful
very narrowly.
operation. Like, I was just so impressed. I was in the dugout just looking at Kieran McGee. I says, "Will I go over and talk to him or not?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't think I will." I don't know how he takes to the media voice. But like, it was just brilliant. Jim McGuinness and Kieran McGeeney, they're box office at the minute. They're adding so much value to what they're doing. I just absolutely love the character of both of the boys. They're fascinating in everything to say and everything to do. They're pushing the needle all the time. This is a massive game. I'm just so impressed with everything that Kieran McGeeney has done. He's 12th season in Armagh, but just what he's done in terms of every part of the operation of Armagh football is humming really nicely, and I think he deserves a massive amount of credit for that. And equally with Jim, sitting pretty in the top of the table, 3 wins out of 3, 6 points. But I suppose interesting to give an insight into his mindset. He was like, I put Roarty on Ryan O'Donoghue. And last week I was talking about Ryan O'Donoghue and his influence for Mayo. It was really important. And then he goes, I was really happy with Roarty. Basically, he blanked him out or kept him very, very quiet. And that's not for today. That's possibly for later on in the championship when we meet again. So it gives you an insight into the mindset of the top coaches. Like, I feel a little bit like Jack O'Connor might pull out David Clifford. I don't think he'll have a flu this weekend to go into Croke Park to have a spin around there when they play Dublin. So that's the type of things these managers are thinking about all the time. Just confidence of players, matchups of players. But like, that game is fascinating. Armagh need a win.
They do.
Armagh have played really well, but they're not getting the wins.
They're conceding goals, Dessie, as well, and they're being caught for a few breaches as well. And they're being punitive.
You were up in the athletic grounds for the Galway match. That probably cost them the game that night, you could argue. And it definitely, the last day was a 4-point swing, wasn't it?
Definitely, because they had a goal from McQuillan, which was cancelled out, and then the opposition got a point at the other end straight away. As regards the game I was at against Galway, again, Galway are just coming back from the dead time and time again, but that night, anyway, Geezer was not impressed over one of the breaches, at least, because he thought a player was coming off injured at the time. But something they're going to have to tighten up a little bit as well. And I think players are going to have to take ownership of that. You're going to have a designated caller on that in the forward line. Going back to what Dessie said, it's not that long ago where some clubs in Armagh were calling for Geezer's head. There was a vote taken, but again, every aspect of it, their underage system is working well, their schools, their academy is going okay. They've got good people behind the scenes. Conleth Gilligan is a really underrated coach at the highest level. I don't know if he's underrated anymore. He's top class, and I think matchups and stuff like that, he's well on top of that. They will miss Donaghy this year, there's no doubt about that, and he's an infectious personality. I think if stop conceding goals, though, they're going to have to look at that. And where Ethan Rafferty's season is going to be is still.
Looks like it's outfield at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, and like Blaine Hughes is a fine keeper, and up that night against Galway made 2 or 3 unbelievable saves. But the wind with the kickouts, it's tricky for him to operate at the moment at times. When he's on his game, he's top class. Again, you need the runs being made for you, I guess. But
it was interesting on Sunday, Cathal, in Roscommon, that Ethan Rafferty was named to be an outfield player and one of the 26, but then there was a change just before a throw-up that he went into number 16 position.
Okay,
So it could possibly, and to be fair to Kieran McGeeney, it just shows you the loyalty he has. Like, Blaine Hughes had a tough first half, but then he did really well in the second half. But it would have been possibly very harsh to whip him at half time and not give him an opportunity to kick out with the wind.
See, he's an out-now goalkeeper, like a great shot stopper as well. And I mean, on his days, his deliveries are fine. But Rafferty just gives you that maybe extra bit of, I suppose, his stature physically. And again, coming out the field, he's a wild card, so I'm not sure where. I do feel he's essential to them yet, though, because
he'll have a role. He came on against Galway outfield, didn't he?
And especially as that roving goalkeeper, he puts huge doubts in the opposition. Because he is like punching holes.
He's kind of hamstrung at the minute a little bit, isn't he? His role. He was so effective for so long.
The old system.
He's one of the players that's really been impacted, and I say he'd love to get out the pitch. It's just, has he the legs and mobility in the modern game? That's like when you're in for 6 or 7 years in the nets and then you're asked to be an outfield player. It's a bit of a turnaround in the modern game, because the one thing you need nowadays, lads, is legs. You need to be running the socks off yourself.
Yeah, and as regards Donegal then, Cathal, like, Jesus, they're bringing on a couple of players the whole time. McCall's only a kid, right? He's looking really, really strong. Not only did Rory keep Donoghue quiet, he got a score or two as well at the other end. To me, he's top young defender in the country. He's absolutely awesome. Jim looks to have the bit between his teeth from day one this year. I wonder, will they go hard for the league? I'm not so sure they went hard for it last year. And I wonder, is a league important for them? You know,
I do think the role that Michael Murphy play, I actually think it's going to suit Donegal this year. That Michael Murphy mightn't start as many games and then will be introduced when the need is greatest. And I suppose if you think of Michael Murphy as a person, I would say that when he's sitting on the bench analysing the game, looking at the trends, looking at what's going on all over the pitch, what's needed, he's coming onto the pitch then. He's effectively like a manager, except he'll be coming in to, I suppose, put his stamp on the game, kind of iron out anything that needs to be ironed out, communicate with the players that needs to be communicated. So I do think that with the quality of players that Jim has amassed now, that he can afford to leave Michael on the bench for that bit longer, and then his impact will be greater then when he comes on.
It's a fair statement, and Michael himself probably won't want that, but I'd say it's entirely reasonable to suggest that it'll happen this year, because, you know, if they go back to last year's All-Ireland final when things didn't go great for them, there was still a period in the second half when they clawed back a little bit of momentum. I won't say they were ever going to... Were they back to within a few points at one stage, Dessie?
They were back, I think, maybe 4, but I don't think it was ever... I don't think it was... it was that man, Michael Murphy.
Bring on Michael... Bring on Michael...
Point,
at that point, yeah. And what you're doing then is maybe you're lifting your crowd. Michael Murphy, to me, can solve a couple of areas on the field. He can go and win primary possession, or he can be the target man inside. And... obviously, he's a two-pointer machine if he wants to be as well. So there's 3 things he can give you straight away, but he puts maybe a little bit of doubt in the opposition then as well.
Yeah,
you know?
of course. Yeah, when you see him coming on with 20 minutes to go, it's a big man to bring on.
Dessie's main point, the panel looks to be strong enough now that you could potentially do that. But look, lads, only February. I wouldn't be nailing my colours to that one just yet.
Yeah. Dublin Kerry, lads, Croke Park, Saturday evening. Where are Dublin at, Dessie? Is a very
I thought they were
question.
shaky out. I thought Monaghan had an ocean of space back in the full forward line. Dublin's defensive system or setup looked like it was lost for large parts of the game, and I felt like Monaghan could have easily got 4 or 5 goals and could have easily got maybe 2 or 3 certain very strong goal opportunities when they were really in the ascendancy in the second half, and that would have put the cat among the pillars. Ger has kind of retracted his statement a little bit in terms of what he said about the panel and cutting it and stuff like that. He did mention, though, that he's trialled out 164 players to be involved with the Dublin squad, which is absolutely phenomenal. I'd love to get a list of them players and offer them around the country to some of the other teams and see could they get them, because it seems like a phenomenal amount of players that Dublin have at their disposal. That wouldn't it be great to see them spread around the counties in Leinster that they could play and represent the county team. But equally, where are they at? There's a lot of question marks. They're better players. Like Kieran Kilkenny hasn't really got to the levels that we expect him. Brian Howard, similarly. Niall Scully, similarly. Sean Bugler did decent enough, but like Con saved him the other night. Con got 2 rakers, and that's what saved him. And apart from that quality that he brought to it, you wouldn't fare Dublin like you used to.
And yet they'll be, they will be in the hunt for a Leinster title at least. I mean, they could. Relegation's obviously a possibility now. Out of the 164 players you looked at, there's still 50 in the squad, and I think 40 to 46 of them nearly have got competitive action either in pre-season or the league as well. He's done what Pat Gilroy did. His clubmate. He's scoured the county, and he's opened it up to everybody, and maybe clubs, smaller clubs feel there's a bit of buy-in there. And as Dessie was saying, maybe some of those players have Wicklow or Laois or Offaly heritage. The native counties could be coming looking for them. The point I'll make, though, I think they've obviously never replaced the midfield maestro, and he's a huge gaping hole there. No sign of him coming back either. And I think it's going to be a rebuilding job there, Cathal.
But is this the sort of game that might...
I think Kerry will go up and try and make a statement here.
It's what Jack O'Connor, it's like Jack, what's his mindset coming into this game? So roughly you're talking 5, 6, 7 of last July's All-Ireland starters have started all the games. And like interestingly, the David Clifford one where they were going up to Ballybuffet, or I think it was Ballybuffet, they didn't bring him. So this is now heading to Croke Park. I don't think Kerry teams ever like losing Croke Park. So I think he might sharpen the knife a little bit, Jack. Kind of bulk up with
the point you make,
with a little bit of quality.
He likes to have a look at Croke Park, doesn't he, and how things will play out in Croke Park with different players.
He likes to win a league title as well, lads. Don't forget that. He's always given it due respect. And I think what maybe is not prominent is the likes of Trant and Evans. You know, they give him two more little things to think about in that forward line. Don't get me wrong, you're going to have Tomas Kendi, you're going to have all the Dingle lads have to come back in as well. Now, they're not going to... It's a bit like...
I think he said he's going to ease them back in, didn't he, this week?
They're going to be eased back in. As Dessie said, whatever Jack wants to do here, if he wants to come up and make a statement, this is the place and the venue to do it, and it's maybe the time to do it as well. But, you know, certainly he wouldn't be one bit worried about Kerry the way they're shaping up. Like they've just so many options.
Well, what did you think? You were on the sideline the last day, losing that 12-point lead at one stage. The second half.
No doubt about it, Galway got a grip on the kick-out at a crucial stage. For a long, long period, I thought Kerry were safe, even though Galway had a small bit of momentum. But again, the 2-pointers...
I think, Damian, like when you throw in John Maher into I think, to be fair to Galway, the players that they're missing, like when you bring in the little bit of quality that they can just swing a game, like, and that's, we've seen it against Armagh. He brought in Shane Walsh, he brought in McDade, he brought in a few lads very quickly, Matthew Tierney. Like, in fairness to Pádraig Joyce, he's dealing with a shorthand all the time, and when he introduces the little bit of quality, the difference it's making is incredible.
You mentioned John Maher there, Dessie. Like, obviously he's quality coming out of all his pores, right? But what he also has is an insatiable work ethic and a ravenous desire to get on the ball. And you know, players might not have quality that he has, but you can still bring those attributes. And he changed the game. He was constantly hounding for the ball, you know, delivering it across field with both feet, then going looking for it again. They actually, I think they had 23 scoring chances that went begging on the night against Kerry. So my point on Galway would be, if they ever get their full complement back, a season or two ago they had 21 players injured at one time. If they ever get all their guys back together again, Cathal,
I agree with you, yeah.
They're right up
there. Have there any physios over there?
I'll leave that one go.
I think there's a job for you there, David, as a physio in Galway. There's no pressure on them guys.
Yeah.
But like, the thing about it is, I think Pádraig Joyce actually has a poor enough record against Roscommon lads. They've played them 5 times in the National League and they've only won once, which is interesting because you would assume that Galway would have a bit more quality than Roscommon. But Roscommon, like, I was in the high, the tails are up, the confidence is good. They're really, like,
they're different.
Jeremy Murta, Enda Smith, and like, I really, really enjoy watching Darragh Craig play football. They're brilliant players. But what they have is they have a very good desire. They're very competitive, and they've got that sprinkle of quality that can hurt teams in the modern game. So this game in Salt Hill is a massive game, I think, because even though people are talking about Roscommon, like, you know, they could have had 5 points, they could have this. Roscommon just want to get safe. They want to cement their place in the division, because when I was in the Hyde, the atmosphere, the pitch, everything about it, the occasion, the sense of, you know, like, the quality players on show, everything was really big, Division 1 standard, and that's where every team wants to be. That's where you want to be performing week after week. So Roscommon will be doing their damnedest to get a win in Salt Hill, but I just think Galway have started so poorly in these matches that like, Pádraig knows the problem and he doesn't suffer fools. He'll be looking to correct that this weekend.
And like John Maher, then Enda Smith is back, in my opinion. He's after making 2 teams of the week so far this season. He's back to his all-star form. He's ravenous again. He's good for road. I really like Mark Dowd as well. Low key, has been there at minor, under 21, been there at club level. He got a bit of unity going in terms of that internal thing, you know, an internal Roscommon man driving this on, and that means a bit to them as well. So I'm really impressed with them this year. That'll be a cracker of a game.
Yeah, it will be. And then just before we finish, lads, Monaghan Mayo is the other Division 1 match on Sunday. Probably win or bust for Monaghan, would you say?
Yeah, I actually feel sorry for them too. Gabriel's brought in, like, I'd say 10 new players that have got a game time because he simply had to. And I think, you know, Jack McCarran gone. Jack's gone as well this weekend. He's been out for a while. There's maybe, is there 7 or 8 key players injured at this stage, Carl? And you're looking at a team against Mayo that maybe found it tough going to get the ball against Donegal.
Yeah.
But bit of energy there. They like a high press. And I think Mayo will have the edge on this one, because now you never ever write off Monaghan. They've boxed above their weight for the last 15 years, in my opinion. They're an incredible county. But with all the injuries they have, I just feel Mayo have a chance to bounce back.
I just wonder, from a Mayo point of view, Dessie, that Finbar Roarty experiment, if you like, on Ryan O'Donoghue, did that give an insight to other teams into how to shut Mayo down?
100%. Yeah. Every team, like, that's what you're doing. You're looking at trends, you're looking at the key threats, you're looking at who's going to have the impact. And like for Ryan O'Donoghue, that was a really good move for Andy Moran. He pulled him out. He was the conductor in chief. He was getting 2-pointers. He was taking frees, winning frees. If you think of the Dublin match, he was involved with Shirley McMahon, who got sent off. Like, he's kind of like Tipp Tough, and he's poking the bear a lot. Like, he plays on the edge, in fairness to Ryan O'Donoghue. But every team will notice that Ryan O'Donoghue, when you lessened his impact, the Mayo forwards weren't as impactful as they have been. And the question is, is their full forward line good enough? Have they enough quality in that full forward line? When you look at the other teams around in Division 1, and in fairness to Monaghan, I feel very sorry for Gabriel Balogun. Like, Stephen O'Hanlon was coming out with that ball, bombing down the pitch, and he just turned it over at the wrong time, ended up in the back of the net, and that swung the game. And the killer for Monaghan is that they invested so much into that game, so much into performance, and they were so close. That'll be very hard to lift themselves again this weekend. So that's why you'd fancy Mayo, but as Damian said, there's something special in the water in Monaghan. They do not lie down for any team. They're a brilliant team.
Yeah, you wouldn't be surprised if they won this weekend.
No, you wouldn't be. That's the glory of it. Like, so again, they have a great spirit. Again, now they'll have missed Andy this year as well too. Like, I mean, I saw the way he interacted with the players last year after games. He was like a big brother to them, or nearly. The uncle you love coming around with a big bag of sweets. Like, he was literally going around, and everybody was kind of glued to what he was saying. So he's that infectious personality, and they will miss him, but. They're a fine county full of great footballers, and they'll push Mayo right to the end. But you'd imagine Mayo could bounce back there.
Yeah, well, let's see how it all pans out, lads. Damian and Dessie, thanks a million. We'll be back with hurling in just a second. Now, time to talk hurling, and delighted to say we have Liam Sheedy in studio with us today. Liam, how are you? Good to see you.
Great, Colin. Yourself?
All well, thank you.
Good.
Weather not great. Do you miss management this time of year? Probably not.
Probably not is right. No, cold nights in Morris Park. You could think of better things to be doing. But listen, when you're in the thick of it, and it's amazing actually. Some nights you come out of there and you would have the most amazing training session in awful weather.
Yeah, and
you'd really feel like you made progress. You know, so sometimes you can't control the weather, but the attitude that some of the lads will bring on bad nights. I think it makes the squad too. So yeah, but I don't miss it.
You've been at a few of the games for television and stuff. What have you made of the first couple of rounds?
Look, I mean, it is build up. Every team is in build up. They're all trying to find their best 15, understand their best lines, see what style of play they want to adapt, see where the up and coming players are coming from. So it's really about the fine tuning of your group because you're trying to get the balance right between the load that you need to get done at this time of the year to make sure that when you hit the cut and thrust of the Munster and Leinster Championship that you're primed for that. So you can't not do the work. And doing the work on the same week as you're playing the league match doesn't make it easy because you got to getting that balance right. So I'm sure Cork, for example, would be delighted to have the 3-week break now because you get a chance to really zone in on the work and you don't have to worry about the match. But look, overall, every team they'll have their sights set on what they want to achieve in the league and ultimately where they want to be at the end of the league. But ultimately, it's all about the middle of April when this thing really kicks off.
Yeah, and you've got Fitzgibbon in there as well. It must be difficult from a management point of view to manage at this time of year for everybody, really.
Yeah, it is. But I suppose the beauty about the Fitzgibbon setups now in nearly all colleges, I'd say, is that it's a very elite preparation. So it's not as if they're in an environment that isn't conducive or delivering the same standards and the same quality of work as what they get in their inter-county panels. But yeah, managing load is really difficult. You take someone like Darragh McCarthy and Cathal O'Neill and all these guys, trying to, you're involved in a lot of different camps, a lot of different asks of you. That doesn't make it easy, but that's where managers have to put the player at the centre and make sure to do what's best for the player.
Yeah, that was a great Fitzgibbon final last week as well, with UL getting the job done. Brilliant. That scoring in that game actually was incredible.
Yeah, I'm not so sure if you were the defensive coach in either team now. You'd be sitting down having a cup of tea on Saturday morning reflecting on a great game. But yeah, I mean, for the scores in a 60-minute game, you say, was it an 80-minute game or a 60-minute game we just had? But I think, there's just quality players, and if they get space and they get time on the ball, they're going to hurt you. And it was very enjoyable from a spectator's experience, that's for sure.
Yeah. So Division 1A this weekend, Liam, Kilkenny, Waterford, Offaly, Galway. The big one probably, and the one that's on RTE television on Saturday, is Tipperary against Limerick at Semple Stadium. What have you made of Tipp so far? Coming in off the back of the All-Ireland last year, obviously, it's difficult to manage. You know all about it from winning a couple of All-Irelands. What have you made of what they've produced so far?
Yeah, look, I think overall, I think it's, he's made Liam has made a lot of changes to the panel, so he's really freshened up the group. He's brought in some more young talent. I suppose, look, there's a really good conveyor belt coming from the under-20s and the under-17 team of previous years, so there's no doubt about it. Like, I'd say it's a very competitive camp. I'd say nobody has a chance to take their eye off the ball because there's somebody waiting there to get their chance. And, he's given some players their opportunity over the last number of weeks. He'll be delighted to have got the 2 wins under his belt, because it's a really competitive environment, and I think staying up and retaining your status is very important. So to have those 2 wins under your belt is really important. And look, they were very competitive in Cork, stayed with him for long periods. I don't think anybody would have been surprised with the overall outcome. I'd say some of the teams, because of, winning the All-Ireland brings a lot of other things that stop you from getting into really top-class preparation early doors. So they'll probably be coming a little bit later to the table. But I'd say if Liam Cahill was told he'd be where he is today, having done 3 rounds of the league, he'd be very happy. But equally, I'd say looking forward to seeing Limerick come into town, because I think the Limerick championship match in round 1 last year was probably where Tipp catapulted himself maybe into a different arena than what they would have been previously. And it really said, I suppose they sent out a message that there was a team. And I think even the Cork game in Thurles was probably a league game that Liam targeted. And he beat Cork in the league in Thurles after not having a good experience in the championship the year before. So I'd say, you'd have to say, with the way the league has formed so far, the winner of Saturday evening's contest is going to put themselves in a strong position to challenge for that one of those two final spots in the league.
Am I right in saying the first time you were a manager, the league was really important to you in terms of building blocks?
Yeah, it definitely was. It was really important to try and get our hands on the trophy, to be honest with you. That league was 2008 league was really important for us because we ended up playing Kilkenny, Waterford in the quarterfinal, and Kilkenny in the semi-final, and getting into the final against Galway. And there's no doubt about it. It gave us an element of confidence, but it was different times as well, Carl.
Yeah.
You had that bit of a lead up. I can remember there was we were going actually on training camp on the Monday morning, so I had a bit of a job getting the boys out of bed in the Louis Fitzgerald Hotel to get on the bus and go to the airport. But and it's amazing, Tipp, we haven't been successful in the league since, so I'm sure it's something that Liam wouldn't mind adding to, but equally it's not probably the top priority for any of these teams in 2026.
And then the second time you were manager, going from 2019 into 20, what do you need from your team to try and win a second All-Ireland? The back-to-back is obviously a big thing for Tipp. What sort of advice would you be dishing out?
Look, I think the back-to-back probably won't be spoken about. I think, there was an awful lot of the characteristics that Tipp showed in 2025 that Liam will look to replicate again in 2026. I think he knows the core of his group. I think he's an incredible blend of youth and experience. He'll be trying to make sure he times it right with the experienced guys so that they can bring the right energy levels at the right time. But I'd say the number one focus is to be competitive in the league. I think if you end up in the league final, it's bonus territory, but ultimately it'll all hang on. Like, coming out of the top 3 in Munster is probably the number one priority for most of the Munster teams that are in the league. But if we were to win a league title along the way, I think we've seen over the last number of years, winning the league title or being in the league final is not detrimental to a really good, strong championship run.
Yeah. Limerick looked a little bit better the last day compared to the game that they lost to Waterford, where I think John Kiely said they were outfought, I think was the word that he used that time. The experienced players, again, Gallan, very impressive the last day. Peter Casey up front, I think they combined for 1-7. Does it look to you they're still relying on that cohort, if you like?
Yeah, look, I think Peter Casey being back and being at the levels, I think even from a hurling perspective is great. Like, Peter Casey in full flow. I watched the match. I'm not sure there was a lot, like, defending again him, like, it's just the positions he got and the points that he took, like, they were just incredible moments of skill, that you just stand and go, wow, that's some score, so he got 5 wonderful points, and look, we all know Aaron, he was, I thought at one stage Aaron is just, he knows it's the league, it's like somebody priming himself for later on, but then he gets the ball and he flashes it into the back of the net. So I think Limerick have a really formidable attack, and when you look at the likes of Cathal O'Neill and Shane O'Brien, 2 players I was really impressed with. I think Adam English came of age last year For Limerick, he was outstanding. He got an All-Star nomination. He was really impressive. But I think Shane O'Neill and Shane O'Brien and Cathal O'Neill probably haven't really got to the level that I think they're going to get to. And I think if they get to that level in 2026, there was parts of their play again last weekend that was hugely, hugely impressive.
Where would you play Cathal O'Neill?
That's the beauty about him. I mean, the middle. It's less about where you play; it's more about how you play. I think the guy has loads of energy. I think he can play anywhere from 5 to 12.
Yeah.
And he'd be very effective in any position along there. I've seen him play wing back. I've seen him play centre back, and obviously we've seen him in the half-forward line. So I think he can be a very, very important player for John, because looking at when you think about mileage on the clock for a lot of players for Limerick that are in that zone between 5 and 12, I think he's going to need somebody that really brings a huge energy. I think Adam brings it, but I think he will need somebody like Cathal in there as well.
There's been a lot of debate about who's going to play at 6 for Limerick this year. Will O'Donoghue has been there. Has he done enough for you to nail down that spot?
There'll be no debate for me anyway. Kyle Hayes is just, I think he's stellar. I've seen like some of his performances last year. I think his ability to cover and get back when they're under pressure. I mean, look, is Declan Hannon the qualities that he had replaceable? Probably not, but I think the next best thing is Kyle Hayes. I think there's loads of jobs for Will the Destroyer to be operating around in that middle third, and he gets through a lot of work. And again, I think the centre back position is becoming a position that maybe he's been targeted now with teams. I mean, we've seen in the league, watching it last week, where Will O'Donoghue sat and Owen Cody got on a lot of ball and hurt them a lot from that deep 11 where he was picking and getting on a lot of ball. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in teams this year, because a lot of teams now like to have the sitting 6.
Yeah.
But if you've got a deep 11 and they got on a lot of ball, they can hurt you.
So do you need to tailor how your 6 plays to how the 11 plays for the other team, or what way would you go on about?
Well, I think you have to be able to adapt at the appropriate time. I thought Declan Hannon done it really well. You felt like he was out when he needed to be out and back when he needed to be back, and that's a mindset, that's a skill, and I think he had it. And he done it very, very well. I think Kyle has the engine to do it, and I think I think that's something that Limerick will be watching for. I think when they look back in the video, they'll say we gave too much space. So you probably need your midfielder to sit that little bit deeper to ensure that the 11 isn't getting on an awful lot of ball. Because most 11s, if they get that ball, they'll hit you for 4 or 5 points in play, and that's a big tally.
Yeah, and Cody certainly did that the last day. Kilkenny Waterford, Liam, this weekend as well. Where do you feel Kilkenny are at? We've seen them beat Offaly and then lose out to Limerick the last day. They are down a few bodies. I suppose everybody is down a few bodies at this stage of the year, but how do you think they're shaping up?
Yeah, they are down a few bodies, but I sat and watched the game. I really enjoyed the Limerick and Kilkenny game. I thought it was a proper match. I really thought both teams went at it. Clearly, I think they are trying to find some positions. I thought Killian Doyle at wing back was impressive. I thought Darragh Corcoran, I think they've struggled with an out-and-out 6. Darragh looked really comfortable in the position, was on a lot of ball. When the pace of the game picks up, if he can sustain the levels he's at now, when the pace of the game picks up and we're in the middle of the championship, I think he'll be a really, really big player for them. And I suppose we have to understand that Kilkenny have, they've got Adrian Mullen, they've got a lot of forwards to come back in. Look, the talk is that probably Hugh Lawlor and Billy Ryan might be available for later in the year. I think if they're not available, it'll be difficult. I think Kilkenny will have less of a problem filling 2 to 7, and they now have a competition for the number 1 jersey. So Aidan Tallis is definitely looking as if he's trying to push Owen Murphy. So there's a good competition, which I think will be healthy, because they have looked like they're adapting a style now that it will be mixing the long with the short through the lines. So I'd say Eddie Brennan and Niall Corcoran are trying to put a certain stamp on how they play, and I think that variety to their game would be a big plus for them. We have to remember they were very close in the last 2 All-Ireland semi-finals and getting into the final. Both teams that beat them won the final, so could this be the year? But I suppose they probably do need, it's just their ability to find 1 or 2 really good forwards that can complement the likes of Adrian Mullen. In fairness to TJ, he's been doing it year after year, an incredible player. But to be reliant on TJ, I think that's difficult. And I probably haven't seen the 1 or 2 forwards that could really light up the championship for them. Then if you think back to Walter Walsh when he arrived in the scene and banged in 2 goals in the All-Ireland final, they probably need the arrival of something like that just to complement them up front, because I think they'll be fine at the back.
Yeah, they had a few bad wides the last day as well, didn't they, against Limerick, that would have left them even more so in the game as things progressed. I think Waterford will fancy this one, will they, at the weekend?
Well, I think Waterford are in a really good place. I mean, for a team that, having watched the first few minutes against Cork, and like they were completely outclassed and completely outplayed. And you're thinking they're down the Ballygunner guys, and you know, the game just petered out. I mean, honestly, you could tell the outcome after 10 minutes, and to see the transformation. And as you said, I think John Kiley, the first thing I'd say he looks for when he comes in from the pitch is, what's the tackle count? How do we, did we outwork the opposition? And he won't be happy that he went to Walsh Park and Waterford, Peter Quealy's Waterford outworked him. So that was a very, very positive step for them. And they've built on that since, you know, and beat Offaly. Again, a really good game. Could have went either way. You know, Offaly had goal chances that they didn't take. You know, they will need to make sure that, you know, if you give really good teams those goal chances, they will take them. If Martin Keown or Owen Cody gets those chances, you'll be picking the ball out of the back of the net. So I think having recovered with 2 wins, I think we'll get a really good sense of where Waterford are at, because I think Kilkenny will give them a proper test. Because, you know, even for Kilkenny, whichever team wins it, they're probably looking at being in a safe position, because equally important as finishing in the top 2 is ensuring that you retain your status. So it's a big game, and I expect a really good contest at the weekend.
Waterford probably would have taken safety, wouldn't they, at the outset of the campaign?
Well, I think definitely from where they're coming from, it's not easy to transition up. You know, and again, having lost their first game to Carlow last year, you looked like they weren't going to make the final. They recovered really, really well. So similarly, this year they lost the first game. They've the Ballygunner guys coming back in. They should be buzzing. They've, you know, in fairness to Peter, he's given them the appropriate level of rest. He hasn't rushed them back. So you should see a freshness about Waterford. Should see a real competition. You know, Ruben O'Halloran is free
flying it, isn't he? Yeah.
Honestly, like and you know, somebody to support Stephen Bennett in that front is very positive too. So look, you know, Waterford will, you know, their home record is really, really good.
I was just going to say the home record, but how do they bring that bit of consistency, Liam, maybe to get out of a Munster round robin, for example?
Well, I think you know, if you win both your home games, I think that gives you a massive platform to make that happen. And let's be fair, they have been close on a number of occasions. So I think, you know, they'll be trying to ensure that they do the business at home in Walsh Park. And again, they'll have Tipp coming down to Walsh Park. There'll be Tipper coming down again in the championship. So I think Peter has Waterford in a decent position. He's found 1 or 2 that certainly I could see playing a part in championship. And if he can get the Warriors like Jamie Barron and Stephen Bennett and these guys playing to the same level, so it's a big game for Peter the weekend, but he'll be really happy with the reaction of his group after such a slow start in Páirc Uí Chaoimh.
Yeah. The other game in 1A then this weekend, Offaly Galway, Liam. We've given Galway a lot of credit on the podcast so far this season. They haven't picked up a win in the first couple of games that they've played. Have you been impressed with them, or have they still a little bit of work to do?
Yeah, I've seen both of their games. I was very impressed. I mean, you know, I suppose I watched them the previous year against Tipp in Salt Hill, and I didn't think they brought a lot to the table. You know, I thought they limped out of the championship last year. So I thought there was a really good spirit and attitude about the group. Obviously, Micheál has given youth its real fling. He probably feels like it's time to get them in. But equally, he's got the Cathal Mullaney's and the Pádraig Mullaney's, so they're still backboned by the older members of the team. But I think, you know, they look back, they had 20 chances and only had 12 scores against Cork, so they should have been much further ahead of Cork in that first half. Cork came back and ended up winning the game. So it's probably the response he got from the group in the first 2 games has been very good, but now actually it's a results business that he's in. And a result against Offaly and Tullamore on Sunday is critical for the group. You know, they have to get a win on the board. And then there's a few big matches coming down the tracks. But you know, they're at the stage now where I think a win is vital for the group. But I was impressed. And again, Offaly, you know, if they had to take their goal chances, they were right there with Waterford. I suppose I actually went down to Tullamore last year. Offaly had played Dublin and were very competitive, and Dublin just got over the line in the last few minutes. They got a late goal, and I was expecting a rip-roaring contest down in Tullamore. Galway were coming; they had lost to Kilkenny, and Offaly were playing them, and Galway had a man sent off at half time, and I was saying, okay, something's going to really come now. I'm going to see a really good second half.
Yeah.
And Offaly never really caught fire, and I'm sure in the group there must be a burning desire to say, God, last time we played these guys, we didn't really show up to the level that we're capable of. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Offaly bring to the pitch, and equally can Galway turn what has been 2 really solid performances into ultimately putting 2 points on the board.
And Galway have had 3 weeks off, I think, as well, haven't they, since the Cork match? That's a fair chunk of training, isn't it?
It is a fair chunk of training, but equally your match practice. You know, you need to hit the ground running. because you'd probably say the loser is going to struggle to stay in the division,
especially if Waterford were to get to 6 points at the weekend. Then big gap.
You're really it's backs against the wall stuff if you for whichever team loses. So there's a lot at stake in Tullamore on the weekend.
Yeah, Offaly have been maybe a little bit unlucky in terms of player availability as well so far. I know we've said all teams are down bodies, but they seem to have been down more than most, with Fitzgibbon commitments and players maybe picking up knocks there, and then longer term injuries as well. But if they can get those guys back, can they make a bit of an impact, do you think, later in the year?
Well, that's the problem. Well, it's not the problem, but it's the challenge for a team like Offaly, because you take Tipperary, they're working off 3 or 4 teams.
Yeah,
most counties have they have 30, 35 that they can pull from. When you go outside the top 25 in a county like Offaly, like, you are going to struggle to get the same level of quality, because your players who are maybe just coming in, or maybe players coming to the end of their time. So it's not easy, because the league is frantic. It's week on week. You get a week off here and there, but it's more or less week on week. And likewise, then you come off the league and you're straight into championship, and it's week on week. So you've got the same. You've got probably 2/3 or 75 3/4 of your group which are asked to play 420 minutes of league action, and then shoot into 350 minutes of championship action. And that's not easy. And it's a real challenge for Johnny Kelly to get the balance right between picking up points in the league and being competitive, but equally then being ready for championship when the real action happens.
Who out of the 7 teams in Division 1A do you think wants to win the league the most? Or who's the most important for, say?
Well, definitely. I mean, I would have said it on the live when I was in with RT down with Damian and Donegal the last day. I don't think Liam Cahill or Ben O'Connor have a reverse button in them. So to me, they're just always, they want to win everything. I'd say if you're playing 5-a-side soccer with them, they still want to win. But that seems to be their modus operandi, is that they want to win every game. I don't think Liam will be overly disappointed that Tipp lost in Cork, because they're probably that bit further down the road. But equally, I suppose Tipp's record against Limerick over the last number of years hasn't been very good. And I would say the winner of this contest on Saturday evening will give them a good chance. Look, I don't think Tipp getting to the league final did them any harm last year. I think even though they lost the league final, I think they learned a lot about themselves, and they learned a lot about how they wanted to play. And likewise, obviously, Limerick have a week's break. So they're not playing in round 1 of the round robin. So I'm sure John Kiley would love a competitive match in the league final to get him ready for.
And they didn't have a good league last year. Sure, they didn't.
They didn't have a good league,
and
I think some of those performances might, they lack consistency. So I think John will be, they had a poor start to the league. Then they've had a recovery and had a good win against. I think he'll be trying to put back-to-back performances in this league. But equally, Tipp, they're probably the team that we have had the least amount of success with over the last number of years has been against Limerick. So Liam will know that, in terms of impact and momentum for the year ahead, I think to beat Limerick in Thurles on Saturday evening will give him real momentum. So I think there's a bit to play for. You'd have to say Kilkenny and Waterford aren't out of the race, but obviously the winner of that contest will say that they still have a real chance of getting to the final. But I would say Cork have 1 foot in it, and then I think there's a real competition now to see who joins them.
Okay, that's Division 1A. 1B is shaping up to be fairly competitive as well at the top end. Dublin Wexford this weekend, Liam. Wexford have been a curious sort of team so far. They've won 3 from 3, but it hasn't been convincing, to say the least. Now, Leachin did come back against Carlow last time out, and probably a reflection of how important he is. Came on and kind of took control of the game for them towards the end, and the scoreline was quite handsome for them towards the end. They've lost a lot of players over the last few years, Wexford.
They have, and I think their plight is not too different from Offaly's. I think at the moment it's a talent pool, and as you said, a lot of the guys that have been sold, the guys that won the Leinster title for them in 2019, a lot of those are no longer on with the group, and losing guys like Matthew Hanlon and Dermot O'Keefe, they're significant leaders within that dressing room, and had done an awful lot for the county. Lee is probably the one constant. I mean, clearly the impact he has, not just for what he does on the pitch and what he scores. I mean, he's double-digit man all the time, in fairness to him. But I think it's the impact he has on others around him. Because that was a game, that was a sticky finish. That was, there was 10 minutes left and it was a point or two either way. Carlow were well in the game, and he comes on and they just found a new level as soon as he arrived on the pitch. And obviously some of the scores that he got when he came on, very, very top class. Like he's top class player. He's one of the best hurlers we have in the country. So he really makes them tick. So it'll be interesting to see. And I would say going back to last year's championship match, Wexford were right in against like the tightness between Wexford and Dublin over the last number of years means that generally there's not too much between the teams. So it'll be interesting to see, you would say based on their performances and where they've gone in 2025 and with some, top line, I suppose, retirements, and then you've got Rory O'Connor and some of the really good players not available.
Yeah.
You would say that it's advantage Dublin, but it'll be interesting to see because Wexford seem to find the level that means that they match Dublin. So for Neil, it'll be another great opportunity to see. I mean, both teams know that the winner of this is probably going to put themselves in a really strong position.
Yeah.
So you could nearly treat this as a league semi-final. And I think both Keith and Neil would like to be back up in the top tier. But, you'd have to say, based on the form to date, that Dublin would have enough, but matches between these two counties generally have been tight.
Yeah, they've been good as well. Dublin have gone strong in their first two matches in terms of team selection. They went close to Clare first time out. What do they need from the league, Liam, to kind of continue on the momentum that they showed last year in the championship?
Well, I think for Neil it is really going to boil down to the championship. But I think getting a competitive match against a Clare in a 1B final wouldn't do this group any harm at all. I think the more times they're exposed to big matches and big games and no bigger game. And I thought, going down tennis round one is not an easy place to go. I can tell you. Anytime I went down there, you learn everything you get in Ennis. But like they were right there, and it took a magic moment from Tony Kelly to probably swing the pendulum in the home team's favour. But I definitely think that he'd love another go at Clare if he was to win and get into a league final. If it's Clare, it could be Wexford. But right now, you'd say that Clare are going to make the final. I personally would say that Clare are at a level, but I think he'd love to get a crack at Clare because it sets him up for taking on the likes of the Galways and Kilkennys and others that are coming his way in the Leinster Championship.
Leinster shaping up to be quite competitive, isn't it? With Dublin at the level they're at now.
Yeah, it certainly is. And again, a lot of people, are probably saying, well, are Kilkenny coming back a little bit? Is there a new energy in Galway now? Mihal is year 2. Neil got to an All-Ireland semi-final, and is Galway ready to, or is Dublin ready to step on the gas and see can they come up another bit? And Wexford are Wexford. They'll always generally give you. And, we've seen with Offaly and Kildare, on their day, if you're 1% off Offaly or Kildare, I think it's great to see Kildare coming. And equally, Offaly probably will say to themselves, we should have got off and we should have had 2 points to the board in the first round against Dublin last year.
Kildare, Clare, difficult one for Kildare this weekend. They were well beaten by Dublin on their return back up to Division 1B. But no more than you're saying there about exposure for Dublin to the better teams. Probably the same goes for Kildare, does it, in 1B?
Yeah, I must say I watched Kildare and Antrim when they met 2 weeks ago, and I was really impressed with Kildare. I think their physical conditioning is of a very, very high standard. I really liked when they didn't have the ball. I thought their work ethic was superb. They're young, they're fit. I think they learnt a lot. They probably were 3 goals down before, They were 3 goals down to Dublin. It was
a tough start for them.
It was a really tough start, going into Parallel Park, and they probably found it probably took them a while to find their feet. But I'd say they learnt a lot on week 1, and this is going to be another learning opportunity for them. But they played Kilkenny in the early round in the pre-season competition, and they were competitive for long periods. So I like what Kildare are building, and it's great to see Kildare hurling coming up a level and coming up a notch. And I think teams will realise that if you're playing them, especially in St. Conleth's Park, and you're off, I think Kildare will find you out. But I definitely think they're, Naas has made great strides, and Maynooth and others are really starting to come to the table. So from a hurling perspective, we need Kildare. And look, when you're up into that level and when you're in the Leinster Championship, you are going to find it's going to take a bit of time, but they're moving in the right direction. And again, playing teams like Clare, even though it's daunting, it will be good for them in the long run.
I said Dublin have gone strong in terms of team selection. Clare have gone very strong from what I've seen of them in terms of team selection so far in 1B. What does that tell us about maybe what might be to come later in the year?
Well, you just get the sense from the outside that, Tony Kelly's back, Shane O'Donnell's back, John Conlon's back. They're just like a group that said 2026, we're going to give this one right rattle. That's what I would be picking up, and that's the vibes, Shane O'Donnell is coming on, Tony Kelly is playing, so John Conlon started the last day. So I think there's a Brian is really trying to bring this group really tight and really close and looking to win everything that's put in front of him and really set the stall out. And yeah, as I said, there's like Clare and Tipp last year. The winner obviously went on. Tipp went on to go on to great things. Clare will know with 6 minutes to go that game was in the melting pot. So that's the margins that you have in Munster. But Brian knows what he has, and I think he's got some nice talent coming through. And equally, he knows that the tried and trusted lads, there might be one more kick in them.
That'd be something else if they could pull it off later in the year. That's Kildare, Clare. And then the other game would be Antrim, Carlow. We spoke about Antrim on the football podcast earlier in the week as well. It's been a tough time for the hurlers too. You got to look at them against Kildare.
Yeah, they really struggled. The loss against Wexford in a game that they probably had in the bag, and they were probably thinking they were out of there with 2 points in the bag and a great start. Seems to have really hit them hard. I just was surprised by their lack of energy. I thought their body language was quite poor. When the goal went in and then they were hit with another goal, I just felt like, it just seemed to ripple right throughout the team. So, there's questions to be asked of the team now in terms of can they step up. Carlow are coming. Carlow are a really, really good team. To win toe-to-toe with Wexford. So having lost 3 games on the bounce, like, they need a reaction, I suppose. If we look at Wexford or look at Antrim over the last number of years, the performances they had against Clare and against Wexford and against Dublin up in Corrigan Park, they had created an element of a fortress. So that needs to be it's a big game for Davy, and it's a big game for Antrim because they need to get 2 points on the board. Their existence in this division is now under question. They're back in Joe McDonough. So it's a big few months for Davy and for this Antrim group, and he'll need his leaders and his team to stand up. There's a few guys that aren't involved, like Owen Campbell and some Nigel Elliott and these guys that are hard to replace, some really good players. So it's a big test for the group, and it'll be I think he'll be looking for a reaction, and if he doesn't get a reaction, I think there'll be questions, because it's showtime now for this Antrim group, I think, in Corrigan Park at the weekend.
Yeah, that's a really big game for them against Carlow this weekend. So that's the weekend's hurling action. Liam, thanks a million for joining us in studio today. Just a reminder, you can get in touch with us at sportpodcasts@rte.ie via email or across the Sunday Game social media channels as well. And you can listen to the RTE Rugby and Soccer podcasts in your feeds too. And please remember to like and subscribe if you like what you're listening to as well. We'll be back on Monday to review all the weekend's action. But for now, thanks a million.
Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead